Chapter 1. Colonies and Conflicts. During the 1500s, European countries began creating colonies in distant parts of the world. Great Britain, France, and Spain were claiming land in the Americas and Asia. This new land brought wealth and power. By the 1600s, Great Britain and France were fighting over land in North America. American Indians traded beaver pelts with white traders. Fur was an important source of wealth. Land grabbing. French colonists settled in New France throughout the 1600s. This area stretched from present-day eastern Canada to the Great Lakes and down into the Mississippi River Valley. People from Great Britain settled along the Atlantic coast. Slowly, settlers spread into the Ohio River Valley. Here, the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers joined to form the Ohio River. These three rivers were important trade routes. They provided a path to the west. The nation that controlled the rivers would control the valley. The Iroquois American Indians lived in this valley, but white settlers still forced them out many times. The American Indians formed alliances with both the British and the French in return for trade goods. The struggle over this land was connected to ongoing conflict between Great Britain and France. This resulted in the 7 Years' War. Conflicting claims. The French and Indian War was not between France and the American Indians. It was between Great Britain and France for control of this new land and the lands that lay beyond. American Indians played an important role as allies on both sides. Some British colonists believed the land in the Ohio River Valley was theirs. A group of rich Virginia businessmen called the Ohio Company had claimed much of the area in 1749. The American Indians in Ohio had given them permission to build a storehouse with military defenses there. Great Britain wanted more farmland for new British settlers. Colonial resources. New land was called a colony. During the 1700s, European nations fought for resources in these new colonies. The most important trade was in furs. France made agreements with American Indian nations to buy furs. Great Britain wanted to buy furs as well. This was one reason for the French and Indian War. The French also believed the land belonged to them. Robert de La Salle had claimed it for France earlier in the 1600s. The French wanted to use the land to expand their fur trade westward. They built a series of forts along the edge of the valley to protect their claim. The governor of Virginia sent men to construct Fort Prince George in early 1754. He wanted to protect Great Britain's claim to the Ohio River Valley. The British hoped the fort would serve as a starting point for British settlement, but the French military drove the British away and continued building the fort themselves in April. They renamed it Fort Duquesne. The governor of Virginia did not know the fort had been lost to the French. He sent more men to finish building it. Among them was George Washington. He was a 21-year-old major in the Virginia militia. When the group's commander died suddenly, Washington took charge. Soon afterward, he heard the French had taken over the fort. French explorer Robert de La Salle's travels helped French claim large parts of North America. Major George Washington commands troops during the French and Indian War. Washington's group surprised a French scouting party not far from Fort Duquesne. He and his men attacked. All of the French were either killed or captured in the battle that followed. Fort Necessity. Other French forces in the area fought back against the British. Washington and his men quickly built a wooden structure made of upright posts to protect themselves. Only approximately 60 men fit inside. Many of them were too weak and ill to fight. They named the structure Fort Necessity, but Washington's soldiers could not resist the French attack. He was quickly forced to surrender. Washington agreed to leave 2 of his men at Fort Duquesne to guarantee the British would not attack again. His defeat led the colonies to seek Great Britain's help to fight the French. Alliances. Both the British and the French wanted alliances with American Indian nations. The British allied with the Iroquois, a modern recreation of Fort Necessity, where Washington was forced to surrender to French forces during the French and Indian War. Their villages stretched across upper New York and into Ontario. The French's many American Indian allies disliked each other, but they hated the Iroquois even more. Despite these alliances, the American Indian nations distrusted both the French and the British. Both countries had already broken promises with American Indians or moved into their lands without permission. Explore online. The focus in Chapter 1 was on the factors in North America that led to the French and Indian War. The website below tracks the key events of the war and the ways in which it changed U.S. history. Go to the timeline entry for 1753. How does this information differ from what you have read in this text? What differences were there in the points of view of the French, the British, and the American Indians? French and Indian War Timeline: Explore the Fight for a Continent.